Hi, I'm Spiky. Welcome to my clinic. Now, who are you and what do you do for a living?
So my name is Daniela. I live in one very small village, Latinovac, and work in organization Ecocenter Latinovac in Požeško-Slavonska county. And I do actually all my life I'm working in a youth field. I since I was 15 I started with some youth camps. I was a participant, of course, at that moment. It was in 1999, so 20 years, 20 something years in the past. And I was participating. I met some people like that I liked very much, and then they introduced me the world of another organizations. So I just started to explore that world, and slowly it started to be my big, like how to say, the work that I was doing also, like professionally and personally, let's say. So like all my life I was doing, let's say, this work in the organization. I don't have another professional experience, I would say. I mean, I did sometimes some maybe like very small jobs, but it was like really not worth to mention it at this moment. So my like biggest life experience is working with young people, with children, with local community, being like on the street, working with local people, like doing some stuff, like, I don't know, having some stands, talking about some issues, about very different topics. I was like, since I was a child, I was interested, I think, in everything. So I wanted to know more about human rights, animal rights, women rights, gender rights, whatever. I was just exploring, and that was like the whole new world for me. I was also like, let's say, maybe what's very specific. I was born in region that was, how to say, devastated by war during 90s. So like that was also one part of my life that I would say that brought me to that, how to say, to that need, and maybe some kind of, how to say, I just saw that my life should go into direction of organizations, being with people and working with people and for the community, because I felt that at the same time I'm like doing something for myself, like what's very important.
What makes you a professional dreamer and what do you like about it?
So I feel being a professional dreamer because, yeah, as I mentioned also, working, like, let's say, all my life I'm working something what I like, what I enjoy, what brings me like something to build my personality, to build myself in different ways, and to empower me and to give me some like really new values of life. But what's like, what I would say that, I never stop dreaming. I always dream. I dreamt at that moment about some maybe special things that were important to me. So I was working in those fields, and I was more into, like, how to say, in some different topics in my life. I would say that the dream didn't stop. It was just developing. Like at some period I was dreaming something, and then I was doing something, and then I started to dream about something else, and I started to explore this and doing that. So somehow the whole my life is somehow built of dreams and then some kind of actions. And at the moment, I feel like very much, I like very much being in nature, working in the gardens, and I feel that my dream that I would like to fulfill at the moment is food production, and being with the nature, being with plants, um, growing them, making something new out of them, like spreading it to other people. And yeah, that's like, how to say, I really feel in one part of my personality as like really big dreamer, because I like to dream. I like to not do just the things that everyone say, oh, that's easy, do this or that, like do this because, I don't know, you can have money out of it. I like to dream about things I really like to do, I enjoy to do, and even sometimes they don't seem like maybe easy to do, or maybe sometimes they seem like impossible, but I like to take some actions that bring me, I don't know, step by step, that bring me to my dream come true, let's say.
What challenges have you faced as a youth worker?
So the challenges I faced as a youth worker, I don't know, like it's really different levels. I could speak about professionally. the challenge is that since I said I'm a dreamer, I like to have a lot of ideas, a lot of dreams in my head, and sometimes I even work over my borders. Um, I how to say I like to be active, and yeah, many times I'm actually having obstacles with myself. Sometimes I don't know when it's time to say no, when it's time to maybe stop a little bit to rest, and these kind of things. That's like personally. Professionally, I would say that usually I had experience working in some communities that are not that developed, where young people don't have that many opportunities, where we have a lack of young people, where children, when they grow up and start to be young people, they go for education, for a job, for something somewhere else, not only in other part of Croatia, but also other part of world. And I would say that this, how to say, working in like very rural and not that developed communities is quite a challenge. But at the same time, it's like I like challenges. I like to work somewhere where I feel that I can give some impact. Uh, it doesn't have to be something big, but where I can influence something. And yeah, like I don't know. I would say also like sometimes local government, the local community is not always supportive for the work. So like there are like different issues that could be how to say that could be faced, and maybe that we could work more on it, like how to be more connected, how to be more how to say how to cooperate more in the community, many different stakeholders that could make life easier in the rural community especially, and also like that could make the whole youth work easier.
What does burnout mean for you? Give some examples.
Okay, when we come to burnout, I don't know at the moment. What does it mean to me? It means like a huge process going on inside of me. And I think at the first moments when I had it, I had like really plenty of burnouts. It's really not anything new to me anymore. I don't want to say that I'm proud of it, but I deal more easy with this. Like it's how to say, after some time you start to live with this, how to say, don't feel it as such a big burden. Um, and yeah, how to say, how to explain this easily. Like at the beginning it was like I felt like I was super tired after like a work that was done. I couldn't work more. I left. I How to say, I felt like empty, and I couldn't um, how to say, I couldn't manage to think. Like I'm a person who is like very active, and like at the same time I want to always do something, and then my mood was completely like I couldn't work properly. I just wanted to lie down, rest, and watch the the sky, and like just it was super super how to say hard. Like a lot of crying, a lot of processes going on inside. And it was like, yeah, it was interesting to see that at the beginning I didn't even notice that that was it, that it was some kind of burnout. I thought it was okay, I'm just tired, I worked a lot, I need some rest. But after some time you see that it's actually repeating, that it's starting to, like, when I don't care about myself at all and I work too much, I don't make any rest, I don't say okay, now it's break, now it's like time for me, I can say no, the world will not disappear, everything will be still the same, and I can make some of the things tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's not hard when you are like active and you work this kind of work every day of your life, and it starts to be like very how to say, very small or very invisible border or line between your private and professional life. Sometimes you don't even know how to make how to say, to just leave it a little bit on the side, take some time for yourself, and be good. So now I noticed that it's like the burnout is coming like very much quicker. I get tired much quicker, especially after the time when I work a lot, and that's like experience that it's I wouldn't say that it's good. It's hard. It's like really something what it's not easy to accept that you have it, because like saying to yourself, I can't do it. I have to take time for myself. I have to give up some things that I'm doing now at the moment. I have to focus on myself and like on this being better. It's super hard sometimes, and yeah, just the process of accepting it and working on it and really trying to manage that it doesn't happen again. It's not easy process at all, I would say.
If burnout was a dragon, how would you describe it?
I don't know. I even don't know if I would describe it as a dragon, because I feel it more like a small me. Like I don't know. It just I want to be so small. Like to be invisible, and like I feel like, yeah, maybe if it has to be dragon, invisible dragon. Like really a small one that doesn't make anything. It's like no reaction, just recharging.
Okay. Oops. Sorry. How did burnout impact your life and how did you deal with it?
So yeah, burnout is influencing a lot of things um, in our lives, in my life. I would say that it influenced my behavior toward myself. It influenced the relations with other people. Sometimes, like if you are not really, um, if you are not really clear about it, and you are not really accepting that you have this kind of processes going on inside of yourself, you can also be like very vulnerable at the same time. But at the other hand, you can also hurt other people because you don't even notice that you're just, the frustration goes out, the anger goes out, and you don't know where it's coming from. So like really being aware of this, if and of course it influences the work that you are doing as well. So like it's really not productive part of work, let's say. So if you want to really do, how to say, to make something about it, or what did I do, like when I started to recognize it and really accepting that it's happening, I started to say it out loud. I started to say it to, I don't know, my working team, saying, okay, people, I'm really going through really tough period. I need some time to rest. I cannot do thousands of things that like I'm taking over all the time. I need some time for myself. I need a break. I want to do something else, or just rest. And I think by admitting it and like how to say, accepting it, you manage to, how to say it out loud, and other people can understand what's going on. So they are not, how to say, they will understand, they will support you more. If they don't know what's going on, then this, I don't know, these tensions and everything is just raising up. And you don't know why it's happening. You don't know why it's happening. Other people don't know what's going on there. Like it's like really communication, like honest communication. I think is super important. Being honest with yourself first of all, and then being honest with other people and saying, okay, people, now like maybe if I say something more expressive, or it doesn't have anything with you, it's my process that it's going on. So just yeah, like I talk more about it. I discuss it with people. I say it out loud. I mean, I don't talk about it with everyone on the street, but with the people that I work with, the people that I live, or like with my, let's say, the closest surrounding. And I think this honest and open communication is like something what really brought me to another level, to go much easier and not to hurt people and myself, um, because of that.
What did you learn from your experience?
So from the whole experience, like working experience, life experience, I learned a lot of things. I learned that I cannot do everything, even I wish to. I learned that I need to respect myself more. That I have to, because then in that order I can respect others as well. That I should take smaller steps, because if it's not going too quick and too, like progressive, it's okay. It can go slowly and still I can make a change and still I can do something for myself and for the community as well. It's like, yeah, being in this kind of work, you always want to give more and you always think I'm not giving enough. You always have this feeling of not being worth enough for the community, that it should be more and more and more and more, and then yeah, like this more and more like goes to like really really opposite direction, not a good one for yourself. So taking a small steps, following what you really need and want at that moment. um, and yeah, like this, I think it's very very personal process. So maybe what's the biggest knowledge or the biggest thing I got is like this communication with myself, I would say. Really understanding the processes, or maybe not understanding, but recognizing them inside of me. And trying to, how to say, give the time for myself, not to find solutions immediately, not to force myself, okay, I'm going to rest for one day and tomorrow I can continue. If it needs to be like half a year, like, but just to give the time for myself properly to recover and to find the moment when it's time to go to move on. So yeah, I would say that it's like really huge personal experience, like this knowledge, and I would say, I don't know, some kind of experience that is coming. It's really this personal communication. But when you work with yourself properly and good, and like you respect your own processes, then it's much easier with everything else.
Now, if you could send a message to your younger self, what would you say to help them prevent burnout?
That's super hard question. Like, what would I like the message I would send to myself, my younger self? Mm, yeah, I even don't know if I would like to take another, how to say, if I would like to to prevent something, because this whole experience also was very worth. Even it was not easy. It was painful at some moments. It was like hurting a lot, but at the same time, um, it brought me like a huge, how to say, huge difference in my life as well. It built up my personality. Like, I don't know. It's I don't want to regret about the things. What I would like, maybe, is more that, for example, I would like maybe to start to recognize a little bit some things a little bit earlier. Because, for example, at the end of year, I say, okay, next year will be um, different. And then it comes next year and I start again the same or even more work hours. And this is what I would like to change, for example. If I say to myself, I want to do next year more easy, I want to do this and that, because I really, there are some things like, I don't know, I like to garden a lot. If I like to do it, why don't I give myself a time to really do it because I like it? Why I always, how to say, forget about it when the work starts? I forget about it and then I just start to be again stuck in a lot of work, and a lot of work that I even maybe at the moment don't want to do it that much. So I would send a message to myself yesterday. Like, it's just, like, follow yourself in a proper way, like just listen yourself. That would be maybe the message, that it doesn't have to go too much in the past. It can go to last year or last week. Just to remember the feelings that I'm having at the moment, or in the moment when I feel not easy, and having some kind of obstacles, and this, I don't know, like burnout or whatever. Just, what happened, just recently, remember this, and, like, try to find your way, and do like what makes you happy. Listen yourself.